Today I'll be showing you how to make these great little nesting dolls. It's your interest and support that allows me to contribute new content and weekly videos, so I would like to just quickly thank you for that and to remind you to subscribe. Now let's get started. So for this video, I'm going to be using these 3 velvet yarns. They're put out by Bernat. It's their crushed velvet yarn. I'm using the white, the coffee, and the deep gray. Of course, use whatever yarn you would like, but these are the yarns that I'm using in this video. They're a size 5, but because I want a tighter stitch, I'm actually going to be using a size G or a 4mm hook. I will also need a yarn needle, a pair of scissors, of course, and then a variety of safety eyes or buttons, whatever you have. Now you may decide that you would rather embroider or crochet eyes, and that's perfectly perfect. Just remember that I will not be including that aspect into the video because I am going to be using safety eyes or buttons or a combination thereof according to what each of my dolls or nesting dolls I think will best suit them. However, just understand that the instructions I show you with regards to making the eyes for these dolls, it can be translated over to whatever you may embroider or crochet as well. So don't let that discourage you. So let's begin by making an adjustable ring. And in that adjustable ring, we're going to go ahead and single crochet 6. Now for this project, we're going to do yarn under technique. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 'Now for round 2, I'm going to increase. So I'm going to do 2 single crochets in each stitch, and that will leave me with 12 stitches at the end of round 2. So now for round 3, we're going to begin in a series of stitches. So the first stitch is going to be a single crochet. And then the next stitch, we're going to do 2 single crochets. Then again, a single crochet, and then 2 single crochets. We're going to do that 4 more times, and that'll give us a total of 18 stitches for round 3. Now for round 4, we're going to do a single crochet twice, so single crochet in the first stitch and a single crochet in the second stitch. And then in the third stitch, we're going to increase. In other words, we're going to do 2 single crochets. And we're going to continue that pattern 5 more times to help us end with a count of 24 stitches. Now we're going to move into round 5. And for round 5, our pattern is going to be a single crochet 3 times. And then in the 4th stitch, 2 single crochets, or in other words, the increase. So it'll be 1 single crochet, 2 single crochet, 3 single crochets, and then in that next stitch, you're going to put 2 single crochets in the same stitch. But before we do that, and something I should have mentioned earlier, is stitch marker, right? It's a good time to place your stitch marker so you don't lose your count. I like to use just a piece of yarn or a thread. You might like to use what you would normally think of as a stitch marker in terms of what you might purchase at the store. Okay, so 1, 2, 3, and then 1 and 2 in the next stitch, single crochets. And I'm going to do that 5 more times, and I'm going to end with a count of 30. So now I'm going to move my stitch marker before we begin round 6. And for round 6, the pattern is going to be a single crochet 4 times, and then in the next stitch an increase. We're going to do that series of stitches 5 more times, and that'll give us 36 stitches for round 6. And then for round 7, the pattern I'm going to do is going to be a single crochet 5 times, plus an increase. You're going to do that pattern 5 more times, and that'll leave us with a total of 42 stitches for round 7. And then for round 8, we're going to single crochet 6 times. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, plus an increase. 1 and 2 in that next stitch. We're going to follow that pattern 5 more times, and that'll give us a total of 48 stitches for round 8. You've completed round 8, and you have 48 stitches in your round. We're going to continue on to do a single crochet in each stitch for round 9. In fact, we'll be doing that for rounds 9 through 16. So we're going to do just a single crochet in each stitch, and each round is going to end with a total count of 48 stitches. For round 17, we're going to begin to decrease. And so the series of stitches I'm going to do is going to be a single crochet 6. So 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. And then we're going to decrease. Now there are several different decrease stitches, and you'll find that I've used different types of decrease stitches in other tutorials. And in this tutorial, the decrease I'm going to show you as like this. So I'm going to take my hook and I'm going to insert it into the next stitch, and then continue my yarn under technique, and I'm going to pull that yarn through. And then I'm going to take my hook and I'm going to insert it into the next stitch, yarn under technique, and I'm going to pull that through. So now I have 3 loops on my hook. And then continuing with the yarn under, I'm going to take another loop of yarn and I'm going to pull it through to create my decrease stitch. And I'm going to continue with that same pattern, 6 single crochets and 1 decrease. 6 single crochets and 1 decrease. I'm going to do that a total of 6 times, and that will give me an end count of 42 stitches. So for round 18, I'm going to do a single crochet in each of the stitches, and when I finish round 18, I will have a total of 42 stitches. For row 19, we're going to single crochet 5 and then do a decrease. So that would be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then a decrease. And that series of stitches we're going to do 6 times, and that will leave us with a total of 36 stitches for round 19. Now for round 20, we're going to single crochet in each stitch. So at the end of round 20, we should end up with 36 stitches. For rounds 21 through 27, you will also do a single crochet, ending with 36 stitches for each of those rounds. For rounds 28, we will do a reverse single crochet. And how I'm going to do that is I'm going to go ahead and in the first stitch, I'm going to make a single crochet. And then I'm going to chain 1. And then I'm going to start working in the reverse. So instead of going towards my left, I'm going to go back towards my right. And I'm going to take my hook And in the single crochet, I'm going to insert my hook. I'm going to grab some yarn and pull the yarn over. And then I'm going to, in this case, I'm going to yarn over, and I'm going to create my first reverse single crochet, or otherwise known as a crab stitch. Now in the next single crochet, I'm going to insert my hook. I'm going to pull that yarn through, and then I'm going to yarn over, and I'm going to pull that yarn through again, and that'll be my second stitch. I'm going to continue to do that all the way around. And then when I get back here to the beginning, I'm going to finish off, weave my ends in, and that'll leave us with the base of the first doll. Now once you've completed all 28 rows, or rounds rather, your first doll, or body of your doll, should look something like this. So to begin the head, again, we're going to begin with an adjustable ring. And then I'm going to single crochet 6. And for this one, it's going to be the yarn under approach as before. I'm going to tighten this up. That's completion of round 1. Also, don't forget your stitch marker. And then for round 2, I am going to increase in each stitch. So that'll give me a total of 12, of a count of 12 stitches at when I complete round 2. Now for round 3, we're going to also increase. So that'll give me a total count of 24 once I finish round 3. Now for round 4, we're going to do a single crochet in each stitch, giving us a total of 24 stitches at the end of round 4. Next, for round 5, we're going to increase in each stitch. So that's going to give us a total of 48 stitches at the end of round 5. Now next, for rows 6 through 13, we're just going to single crochet in each stitch all the way around, giving us a count of 48 stitches for each round that we complete. So for round 14, we're going to also single crochet, but we're going to single crochet 46 stitches. And then the last 2 stitches we're going to skip before moving on to round 15. So I've just completed my 46 stitches for round 14. And you can see that this is where round 15 begins for me, and these are the 2 stitches that I'm going to skip. Now for round 15, I'm going to skip the first 2 stitches. I'm going to take my stitch marker and just move it over here a little bit, get it out of my way. So here are the 2 stitches I'm going to skip, and then I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to single crochet in the stitch after that. So my piece should look like this now. So I should have a total of 46 stitches when I complete round 15. Round 16, we're going to finish the head off with kind of a scalloped stitch. So basically we're going to do some shells, and I'm going to start that by doing a double crochet. So I'm going to yarn over, I'm going to skip the next 2 stitches, I'm going to insert my hook into that 3rd stitch, I'm going to yarn over and pull through and just follow through with my double crochet. Then I'm going to do it again, same stitch, and then again. I'm going to do it 2 more times in the same stitch. I'm going to skip the next 2 stitches, and then I'm going to single crochet in the stitch after that. And then I'm going to skip 2 stitches, and I'm going to double crochet into that 3rd stitch. I'm going to do that 5 times, double crochet into that same stitch 5 times. And then I'm going to skip the next 2 stitches and single crochet in the 3rd stitch. And then I'm going to skip the next 2 stitches, and then I'm going to double crochet, make 5 double crochets in that same stitch. Now, when you've finished doing that, you should have 7 shell stitches or 7 scallops. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. Okay, we've come back around, and we're going to go ahead and finish the head off. And then we'll be ready to start with the details. Now, the next thing I want to do is begin working on the eyes for my owl. And in order to do that, I'm using this particular safety eye. It's a button kind of eye, so it's just a matter of sewing it on like a button. But I'm going to put that aside for the minute, because what I'm going to do is I'm going to make the back for this, right? And so if I were embroidering or crocheting an eye, I would determine how big around I wanted my eye and then crochet or embroider it accordingly. And then I would take that piece and then sew it on to the backing that I'm going to show you how to do right now. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to begin with an adjustable ring, just like before. And then I'm going to single crochet 6. For round 2, I'm going to begin to increase. So round 1 will have a total of 6 stitches, and round 2 will have a total of 12 stitches. And then for round 3, I'm going to slip stitch in each of the stitches, so that'll give me 12 slip stitches. And then I'm going to finish off, and I'm going to leave myself a nice, reasonably long tail for sewing. Okay, so now I have 2 eyes, and I have the head of my owl. And this part is going to be the beak. And then what we're going to do is going to figure out about where you would like your eyes to sit. And then you're going to sew your eyes into place. While sewing, use whatever stitch works best for you. In this particular case, especially since I'm using the velvet, I'm just going to do a simple whipped stitch. That's going to blend in quite nicely, and I won't have to spend too much time putting too much effort into trying to hide the stitches or make them blend, because this velvet is very forgiving. Now that I have my eyes on and placed how I want them to be, and your mileage may differ depending on the eyes and the yarn that you're using and the style that you like best, I'm going to begin making the beak. Now, for this, it's basically going to embroider the beak on. And so I'm going to just do kind of a basic stem stitch about where I want the top of that beak to be. Or at least it's not the top. The top goes all the way up here, but the feathers cover up that top part of the beak on a lot of owls. And this is going to basically act as my anchor. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my needle, I'm going to stick it in, I'm going to bring it down to about the center of where my beak would be. And I'm going to just begin doing a basic satin stitch all the way through. So I'm just going to bring it up. I'm going to continue to bring my needle through the bottom point of my beak. But here on the top part, I'm going to just I'm going to start pulling my needle around. So basically what's going to happen is each stitch is going to be just a stitch over on the top. And all my stitches on the bottom are going to come out of this basically the same point, so that I have that triangular look for the beak. So now this is what I have so far. And if you're satisfied with that, you can certainly stop there, but I am not satisfied with that. So I'm going to come down, straight down to what would be my next point. So you can kind of see right like that. And then I'm going to start bringing it up through the stitches there on the side, except I'm not going to pull very tight because I don't want this to pucker. So as you can see, so I've got that, and then I'm going to come in, oh, I don't know, about here. And then again, I'm going to bring it right back into that same point. And then this time I'm going to bring the needle up through, oh, about here. And then bring it back down into that same point. And I'm going to keep working it that way until I've finished making the beak. So then I'm going to bring it up to about here. And so you can kind of see what we're doing at this point. And I'll meet you right back here when I've finished working on this beak. So now this is what it looks like once the beak is on. We're still using the same yarn, exactly the same materials that I first discussed. Now, because I'm making a snowy owl, I'm going to go through and I'm going to make a couple of darker spots. I'm just going to simply embroider it. I'm going to follow some of the stitches that are already here just to speckle it up a little bit. And you'll see why I'm doing that here in just a little bit, because I'm going to show you the technique on what I'm going to use to give the wings that black and white speckled look. Now, if you're using different color yarn because you wanted to make your owl into, let's say, a barn owl instead of a snowy owl like I'm doing here, you might approach this just a slightly different. You may decide that the yarn you used, which was a variegated yarn, I would be guessing, especially if you were going to, let's say, do a barn owl, that you might not need to take this extra step. So if you don't need this extra step, don't bother with it. But I'm going to step aside and I'm going to add the little bit of details onto the rest of the head, just a little bit. And then when I meet you back here, you can see exactly what I did and how that worked out. Okay. So to finish up the head, there's a couple of things that I did. I first went and put in the speckles, those little black flecks of feathers that you might see on a snowy owl. And really all I did was I just basically followed the line of the stitch, and I brought in my deep gray color yarn, and I basically just sewed V-shapes. And then I wove my yarn to the next spot I was going to sew another V-shape. So this way it keeps the yarn actually inside the piece with like minimal messiness on the inside. So all these speckles pretty much just look like, you know, the yarn that I used to create the actual shell of the head. So you can do that too. It's very simple. Also, I did one more thing. I gave my eyes a little bit of a brow, just some extra feathers, if you will. And all you need to do here is chain 8 to 10 stitches. You'll decide what looks best on the eye that you've created. And that chain, that 8 or 10 chain length of crochet material that you have, you just go ahead and you put it where you think it's going to look best on your eye, and then you just sew it on. Again, this velvet yarn is very, very forgiving, so you don't have to be the world's perfect sewer, and it's very easy to hide those stitches, and everything blends in just beautifully. It's perfect for beginners. Now, I did another thing. So I'm going to put this aside, and I'm going to talk about the body a little bit. So this is basically the body of our owl, and your head is going to sit on top like that. Right? And we'll get to the wings here in just a minute. So, but what I did, And I didn't think I needed to actually show you how to do this because a lot of what we're going to be showing you to do from here on in is pretty redundant. And so I'm going to just mostly discuss it with you, and I'm going to also list the steps in which to take to make it. So you'll get the full tutorial. You just won't have to sit there and watch me do it. At least not for the pieces that have already been done before in this particular tutorial. So here are the talons. And the talons were real simple. Basically, what I did was I made an adjustable ring and I single crocheted 6. And that would have been round 1. And then for rounds 2 through 5, I just continued to single crochet 6 in each one of those rounds, which gave me basically this length of fabric in the round that I then went ahead and I decreased 3 at the end, finished off, left myself a tail for sewing, and I sewed it where I wanted my first talon to be. And then I made a second talon exactly the same way as the one I just described, and looked through the instructions, and there that showed up at the beginning of this little segment, and that will give you the actual instructions. And then once I figured out where I wanted my talons to be and I sewed them on, I then just took some of the deep gray and I just sewed it around the talons a little bit just to kind of give the impression of the actual nails of a talon. And so that's what I did for the feet. Now we're going to move on to the wings and then the tail of this first nesting doll of the snowy owl. So now I've already finished the one wing. And the way I did this was I used 2 yarns that I doubled up. I doubled up my white yarn with my deep gray yarn. Keep in mind that part of each wing is done a little differently from the other one, and we'll get into that here in just a little bit. But both wings start out the same way. Wings start out with an adjustable ring. And single crochet 6. Still doing yarn under. And then as before, I'm going to pull this tight. And you can see how this deep gray and this white begin to give our wing that kind of variegated black and gray and white colored wing that you might see on a snowy owl. For round 2, we're going to increase each stitch 6 times. So that's going to leave us with a total of 12 stitches by the time we complete round 2. Next, for round 3, what we're going to do is we're going to do the pattern of a single crochet plus an increase. And we're going to do that 6 times. So a single crochet in the next stitch, and then an increase in the stitch after that. A single crochet in the next stitch, and an increase in the stitch after that. There you go. And I'll do that pattern 4 more times, and that'll give me a total of 18 stitches for round 3. And then next for round 4, I'm going to single crochet 2 times and then do an increase. So the pattern will be 1 single crochet, and then the next stitch another single crochet. And then in that next stitch, we'll have an increase. So that's the first pattern, and I'll do that pattern. I'll repeat that 5 more times. And what that will do is that will give me a total of 24 stitches for the end of round 4. Next, for round 5, I'm going to single crochet 3 times and then increase. I'm going to do that pattern 6 times for a total of 30. That I've completed round 5, I'm going to start working in rows. This is going to be basically the feathers. And so I'm going to begin by doing a chain of 13. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, and 13. And then in that second chain from the hook, I'm going to single crochet. And then I'm going to single crochet the next 11 chains. Next, I'm going to slip stitch in this next stitch on the round. And then I'm going to slip stitch in the next stitch again. And turn my work. Then I'm going to single crochet, back loop only for the next 7 stitches. Next, I'm going to chain 3, 1, 2, and 3. Then I'm going to turn my work. And then I'm going to single crochet in the second chain from the hook. So maybe 1, and then I'm going to single crochet in the next chain. Now next I'm going to single crochet, back loop only the next 7 stitches. Next we're going to slip stitch in this next stitch on the round. And then I'm going to turn our work. And then I'm going to single crochet, back loop only the next 5 stitches. I'm going to chain 3. One, 2, 3. I'm going to turn my work. And then I'm going to single crochet in that second chain from the hook. And the next chain is going to be another single crochet. And then the next 5 stitches, we're going to work back loop only, single crochets. So 5 single crochets. So 1, 2, 3, 4, and then 5. And then in the next stitch on this round, I'm going to slip stitch. And I'm going to slip stitch again in the next stitch after that. We're going to turn our work. And then I'm going to single crochet 3 in the back loop only. And that'll be 1, 2, and 3. And then I'm going to chain 3. I'm going to turn my work. And then I'm going to single crochet in the second chain from the hook. And then I'm going to single crochet in the next chain. Then I'm going to single crochet back loop only in the next 3 stitches. Two and 3. Next, I'm going to slip stitch in the next stitch on the round. And then I'm going to make another slip stitch in the next stitch on the round after that. I'm going to turn my work. And this time I'm going to single crochet back loop only in the first stitch. And then I'm going to chain 3. 1, 2, and 3. Then I'm going to turn my work. And in that second loop from the hook, or the second chain from the hook, I should say, I'm going to make a single crochet. And then the next chain, I'm going to make a single crochet. And then in the next single crochet, I'm going to make a single crochet, back loop only. So now you can see that we've got basically a wing. And then the next thing I'm going to do for the next 32 stitches, I am going to slip stitch. So we have the two sides. We have the right side and the left side wing. I showed you how to do the left side wing. The right side wing, going to be pretty much the same thing, but instead of starting at the top here, you'll end up starting at the bottom feather, basically. And once your wings are finished, you can go ahead and determine how you'd like to sew them onto the body. And we can now move on to the cat. So if you haven't already noticed, this video is a little different in that there's so much redundancy in it that I'm pretty much just going to write out the instructions for you and then demonstrate the aspects of each of these dolls that is kind of separate and unique onto itself. Start with the ears, the cat's ears, because they're a little different than what you're going to see on any of the other dolls. And basically what's going to happen is we're going to make 2 of these. And I'm going to begin with an adjustable ring, pretty much as usual. And that's one of the things you'll notice about this doll too, is, you know, there are 3 different dolls and 3 different looks, but a lot of the same kinds of stitches. I'm going to single crochet 6. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. I'm going to tighten up my ring. And then in this next stitch, I'm going to make a single crochet, still doing yarn under, and then a half double crochet in the same stitch, and then a double crochet also in that same stitch. So that first same stitch is going to have 3 stitches in it: a single crochet, a half double crochet, and then a regular double crochet. And then in the next stitch right next to it, we're going to have a double crochet, and then a half double crochet, and then a single crochet, all in that same stitch. So we've made 6 stitches, but in 2 stitch places. So that's going to be our first corner. Basically, we're making a triangle. So I'm going to go to the next stitch, and I'm going to single crochet, and then half double crochet, and then double crochet, all in that one stitch. And then of course the next stitch, we're going to double crochet, half double crochet, and then single crochet. Now we've completed the second corner of our triangle. I'm going to do it one more time. Next stitch, a single crochet, a half double crochet, plus a double crochet. And then in that very last stitch, I'm going to do a double crochet, still doing yarn under, a half double crochet, and then a single crochet. I'm going to slip stitch, and I'm going to chain 1, and then I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to single crochet in each one of those stitches. And this is what your ear should look like so far. Next thing I need to do is make the inner part of the ear. And I'm going to use the white. Now, of course, you can use any color you like. I just happen to be using the 3 yarns, strictly the 3 yarns that I've started with. So I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to crochet 6. 1. I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to tighten this. And then I'm simply going to make a slip stitch. I'm leaving myself a bit of a tail for sewing. Okay, so this is your cat with its ears and the body, and we're going to discuss this right now. So, and again, nice open container. So for the cat's body, we're going to proceed with round 1. And round 1 is going to start off with the adjustable ring. And then we're going to single crochet 6. And then for round 2, we're going to increase 6. And that'll leave us with a count of 12 stitches for round 2. And then for round 3, we're going to single crochet and then increase. And that'll give us a total of 18 stitches. And so on and so forth. It's pretty much very similar to every other body you're going to do, plus the body that you just did of the owl. And the instructions are right here for you. And I'll give you a couple of moments to take a look at that. And then we're going to discuss the hind legs. Okay, again, the hind leg is just a circle, crocheting a circle as usual. And for the hind leg, you're going to start with your adjustable ring. And then you're going to single crochet 6. And then when you've completed your 6 for round 1, you're going to have round 2. And for round 2, you're going to increase. So you're going to increase each of those 6 stitches, giving you 12 stitches. And then for round 3, you're going to increase again. So round 3, you'll be finished with 24 stitches. And then for round 4, you'll end up with 48 stitches because you're going to increase your 24 stitches, and that's going to give you 48 stitches. Now for your hind feet right here, this is going to be another round kind of cylinder. And for the foot, you're going to do your adjustable ring and you're going to single crochet 6 in your round 1. And then in rounds 2 through 6, you're going to also single crochet 6 in each of those rounds. And then for round 7, you're going to decrease 3 times, and that will close up the back of your hind foot. And then with regards to the hind leg and your hind foot, you just figure out where on the body that you want it to be and you sew it on. And then for the front feet, again, you're going to start with your adjustable ring and you're going to single crochet 6 as usual. And then you're going to single crochet 6 in each round from 2 to 3. So basically your front paws are only going to have 3 rounds total. And you can fasten it off, and in every single case, leave yourself a long enough tail so that you can sew with. And then of course you'll make 2 of those as you would make 2 of the hind legs. And then just take some black and then mark off your paws. Now for the tail, same difference, right? So we're going to start off with an adjustable ring and we're going to crochet 6 single crochets in that first round. And each additional round after that is going to have 6 crochets in it. So for the white part of your tail, if you're going to do a tail that's 2 different colors, the white part of your tail is going to be used by rounds 1 through 5. And then you're going to change your color and you're going to switch over to your black. And your black is going to be from 6 to 19, rounds 6 through 19. Now, if you're unsure as to how to do a color change, how to change your yarn over, I will show you how to do that when I show you a couple of special stitches for the mouse. So if you hang tight for that part of the tutorial, we'll show you how to switch over the color. Otherwise, if you already know how to change over the color, then by all means, please continue doing that. So when you get your tail finished, which is going to basically end up being a total of 19 rows, you're just going to sew that onto the back of your cat too, where you think it best fits. And then for the head, and we're going to begin, as before, with an adjustable ring. And we're going to crochet or single crochet 6 for round 1. And then for round 2, we're going to increase. So that'll give us a stitch count of 12. For round 3, we're going to increase again, and that'll give us a stitch count of 24. And then for round 4, we're going to do a pattern or a combination of stitches. So we're going to single crochet 3 and then increase. So basically we're going to do that 6 times, and that will give us a total count of 30 for round 4. Now for round 5, we're going to do a combination of stitches again, and we're basically going to do a single crochet 4 times plus an increase, and we're going to do that combination 6 times, and that'll give us a total count of 36. And then for rounds 6 through 12, we're simply going to single crochet. So each one of those rounds is going to be a total of 36 stitches. Now, when we get to round 13, we're going to do this scalloped edge as we had done on the owl. So basically, we're going to skip 2 stitches and we're going to double crochet in that next stitch. And we're going to put 5 double crochets into that same stitch. And then we're going to skip 2 stitches, and then we're going to single crochet in the next stitch. And then we're going to skip 2 stitches, and we're going to double crochet 5 into the next stitch. And we're going to repeat that 5 times. So that'll fit 5 times all the way around the edge of your cat's head. Now, the eyes are real simple. I just put the eyes where I wanted to put them, and then I just did a basic stem stitch of the white, and then a little stem stitch of the black around that, because that's how I wanted to make my eyes. Now, you might have a slightly different approach to how you'd like to make your eyes, and that's perfect. This is just how I did it. It's simple. You just connect your eyes, you attach them how you're instructed to attach them if you're using, let's say safety eyes, or you can simply sew them on if you're doing crocheted eyes. There's really no hard and fast rules. You just do what you need to do, really. As you can see on the forehead, I've taken some white of that yarn, and I've made my 3 little marks to give my black cat a bit of a tabby look. And then I also made the muzzle. And the muzzle is super simple also. I could have embroidered a nose had I wanted to, and I would have done something very basic or similar to what I did for the owl's beak. But here I simply chose to use a safety nose. But when I made the muzzle, I adjustable ring once again, and I single crocheted 6. And then in round 2, I increased. And so round 2 had a total of 12 stitches. And then for round 3, I did an increase and a single crochet combination. So basically I single crocheted and then I increased. I single crocheted and then I increased. And I did that 6 times, and that gave me a total of 18 stitches all the way around. And then I finished that off and left myself a long enough tail to sew with. And that's what I made the muzzle with. So basically that is pretty much it for the cat. Okay, let's move on to the mouth. So first I wanted to start off with the head, because everything on the head is something that we're already familiar with from our work with the previous two dolls. So for the head, once again, we're going to start off with an adjustable ring, and we're going to single crochet 6. And then for round 2, we're going to increase each one of those stitches, giving us a total of 12 stitches for round 2. And then for round 3, we're going to increase those 12 stitches, and that will give us an end count of 24. Now for rows 4 through 10, we're simply going to single crochet in each one of those stitches, giving us each one of those rounds an end count of 24 stitches. Now, once we get to that 11th row, we're going to do the same scalloped edge that we did for the cat and the owl, except this time you're going to have room to put 4 scallops. So you'll end up with a count of 4 scallops. And just refer back to the instructions or the tutorial on the owl if you need a refresher for that. And then once again, I simply used these little safety eyes, and I did a basic stem stitch just around the eyes, just basic, simple stitch, just to give the eyes a little bit of white around them. And now as far as the ears, so for the brown part, or the main part of the ears, again, we're looking at basic circles. And for this one, we began with an adjustable ring and single crochet 6. For the round 2, we increased, and so that left us with a count of 12 stitches for round 2. And then for round 3, we increased again, and that gave us a total of 24 stitches, at which time I finished off and left myself a long enough tail to sew with. Now for the inner ear, basically exactly what we did with the inner ear for the cat, and that is simply to make an adjustable ring and single crochet 6 times, finish it off with a slip stitch, and you know, which is typically the way you're going to finish or fasten something off with, if I wasn't very clear about that before. And then you're still going to leave yourself enough of a tail to sew that into your ear, so that you can have the inner ear with your outer ear. Now for the muzzle on the mouse, it's 2 rounds, your basic circle. So you're going to start off with your adjustable ring and your count of 6 single crochets. And then you're going to increase that, which gives you a count of 12 single crochets in the second round. And you're going to finish that off and leave yourself a tail long enough to sew with once again. And that's pretty much basically what you need to do for the head. So for those of you who are very new to this, you can start seeing how it's just basically adding the different shapes together to give us the look that we want. Next, we're going to move to the body. And for the body, the next container, as far as the body is concerned, we're going to begin with an adjustable ring. And then we're going to have 6 single crochets. And so our round 1 will end with a count of 6 single crochets. And then for round 2, we're going to increase. And so that'll give us a total of 12 single crochets once we're finished with that. And then for round 3, we're going to do the combination of a single crochet plus an increase. And we're going to do that 6 times. And that'll give us a total count of 18 for round 3. And then for round 4, we're going to do a combination of stitches, the single crochet twice plus an increase 6 times. And so that will give us a count of 24 total stitches. Now for rows 5 through 13, we're simply going to single crochet. So we're going to have a total of 24 stitches for each one of those rounds, for rounds 5 through 13. Then for rounds 14, we're going to start to decrease. And so what we're going to do is we're going to do a combination of stitches. So we're going to single crochet 2, and then we're going to decrease. And we're going to do this 6 times, and this is going to give us a finished count of 18. And then for rows 15 and 16, we're going to simply single crochet 18 stitches. And then we're going to finish that lip off with a round of reverse single crochet. And that'll also be 18. And then that'll give us our basic body shell. And then for our hind leg for the mouse, again, we're going to be working in a circle. And that is going to end up being an adjustable ring with 6 single crochets. And then we're going to increase. So then round 2 will end up with a count of 12 single crochets. Now for round 3, we're going to increase again each one of those stitches, and that's going to give us a total count of 24 stitches. And then round 4, we're going to increase one more time, and that will give us an end count of 48 stitches. And that will be our hind leg for the mouse. And then we'll have that over here as well on this side. Now, the next thing we're going to move on to is going to be our tail and our arm, and then our feet. And for the mouse, we basically are making this with I-cords or out of I-cords. And I'm going to go ahead and show you how to make this I-cord. Also, while I make this I-cord, I'm going to show you how to transition from one color to the next. So I'm first going to show you how to make the feet using the I-cord. I'm going to leave a little bit of a tail because I'm going to kind of weave that in. And so what I want to do is I want to chain 3, 1, 2, and then I'm going to insert my hook into that second chain, and I'm going to pull through a loop. And then I'm going to insert my hook into that third chain, and then I'm going to pull through a loop. Now at this point, we're going to be careful not to lose our loops, and I'm going to keep my hook on that first loop, and then I'm going to pull through a loop. And then I'm going to insert my hook into the second loop, and then I'm going to go ahead and pull through another loop. And then I'm going to insert my hook into that third loop, and I'm going to do the yarn over, and I'm going to now have the 3 loops on the hook. And just in case, this is yarn over technique. So now I'm going to do it one more time. I'm going to remove my hook carefully from the last 2 loops, and I'm going to keep my hook inserted into that first loop. And then I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to pull that yarn through the first loop. And then I'm going to take my hook and I'm going to insert it into the second loop and yarn over and pull that yarn through. And then I'm going to do it one more time. I'm going to insert my hook into that third loop, and I'm going to yarn over and pull that yarn through again. And this is what I'm going to use for the foot of my mouse. And basically how I'm going to finish that off is I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to remove all but one loop, and then I'm going to take the last loop on the hook and I'm going to pull it through that first loop. And then I'm going to insert my hook into the next loop, and then I'm going to take that loop and I'm going to insert it through the next loop. I'm going to cut off enough of a tail that I can sew with. And then I'm going to go ahead and take that through. And that gives me just a little bit of an I-cord, but I can use that for the foot of my mouse. So I would take one end and begin my sewing, and then I just take the other end and use that to shape and also attach that foot to my mouse, as you can see right there. And that's basically how we do an I-cord. Now I'm going to also show you another another technique, basically we're doing the I-cord, but we're going to change colors. And we're going to do that because you're going to need to do that for the tail, and then you're going to need to do that for the little arm and hand here. So again, I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to chain 3. And then I'm going to insert my hook into that second chain, a yarn over, and pull that yarn through. I'm going to insert my hook into the next and last chain, a yarn over, and pull that yarn through. So now I have 3 loops on my hook. I'm going to remove my hook from those last 2 loops. I'm going to yarn over and pull that yarn through the first loop. And then I'm going to insert my hook into the second loop. I'm going to yarn over and pull that yarn through the second loop. And then I'm going to insert my hook into the third loop. I'm going to yarn over and pull my hook through that third loop. So now I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to do this one more time in the white. I'm going to carefully remove my hook so I don't lose my loops, keeping it in that first loop. I'm going to yarn over and pull that yarn through the first loop. And then I'm going to insert my hook and yarn over and pull my yarn through the second loop. And then I'm going to insert my hook again into that last loop, and I'm going to yarn over and pull my hook through the last loop. Now I want to change color at this point. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut myself off a little bit, leave myself a bit of a tail, because I want to be able to weave that in. And so basically this next stitch, we're going to come and we're going to pull in the second color. We're going to change that color. Now, if I were doing something, any other stitch, and it's kind of hard to see it on this one, so I'll just explain it to you. Any other stitch I would be changing colors, I would wait until the last step of that stitch, and then I would work in the new color. So for example, this is next to the last step, right? And the last step would be to pull the yarn through. And so that's what we're going to do. I'm going to take my hook, because this is going to be the last step of this particular row, and I am going to yarn over, and I'm going to get myself a loop of that brown. I'm going to insert my hook again into the white, and then I'm going to yarn over and pull it through that second loop, and then I'm going to insert my hook into the third loop and yarn over and pull that through. And so basically what I've done is I've finished the last step of the previous stitch in the new color. And that's exactly how you will approach any color changes you might do, particularly with regards to the cat. Okay, so to continue again, I'm going to take my hook again, and I'm going to keep it in that first stitch, that first loop, and I'm going to yarn over and I'm going to pull that through. And there again, just be careful you don't lose your loops. I'm going to insert it into the second loop, yarn over and pull that through, and then insert it into the third and yarn over and pull that through. And I'm going to continue that for the length of the arm. And the arm I want to have, depending on the yarn that I'm using, 6 to 5 total rows. So I already have 3 rows. And then my brown makes the 4th row. So I'll do another couple of rows in this, and I will finish with my arm. Now, the tail is done the exact same way, but the tail is going to end with a completion of 12 to 15 rows, depending on how long you want your tail to be. And I'm going to go ahead and finish this, and I will be right back. We have a mouse. He actually looks a lot like a hamster to me with a longish tail, but he's a cute little rodent no matter how you see him. Now, we do have one more little surprise guest who fits quite nicely into the mouse. Now, because I am using just the 3 colors of yarn, I opted to make a woolly caterpillar. And I'll give you a quick rundown on how to do him. However, if you're using different colored yarns, you can certainly put a carrot, make a carrot if you want. You can make strawberries. You can make whatever you want to make to put into the mouse. Or you can simply use the mouse as a holder for a rolled up note or some other kind of special little gift you might be considering giving somebody if you're using this as the actual gift box. But the caterpillar itself is pretty straightforward. Really, what I've done again is taken the adjustable ring and I've crocheted 6 in that round. And then I continue to crochet just rounds of 6s. And I chose to do 18 rows of 6s. And then once I did that, I went ahead and I affixed my eyes. And I just put a little safety nose in there. And then to give him the woolly appearance, I took the yarns that I used and I basically did French knots all the way around his body. Just did basic French knots. Now, if you don't know how to do a French knot, you can simply just sew in loops if you like. French knots it's an embroidery stitch, but I'll go ahead and show you what that looks like right now. So let me get some yarn here. So I have some of this yarn. And go ahead and thread that. And then I'll go ahead and put this, since I'm using the dark gray or the deep gray color, I'm going to go ahead and hook that in there. And basically weave that in a little bit. There we go. Now, a French knot can be a little tricky, but if you take your time and a little bit of practice, you get it no problem. So basically what you do is you have your thread, or your yarn in this case, and your needle, and you take your yarn and you wrap it around your needle at least 3 times, sometimes 4, but for this woolly guy, we really just need 3. And then not in the hole that you pulled your yarn through initially, but right next to it, you're going to reinsert your needle. And you're going to pull that needle through. And as you pull that needle through, it makes a knot. Let me see if I can do it again where you can better see it. 1, 2, and 3. And I'm going to insert my needle. And then I'm just going to gently pull. And that gives me my knot. And so basically I just did that all over the caterpillar to give him this woolly, knotty look. Thank you for joining me today. So until I see all you wonderful and creative fiber artists again, stay crafty, stay amazing. Bye-bye now.